welcome. I'm actually back streaming again. It's been a while, but I'm back doing this. Welcome to the very first episode of the Intelligent Content Academy tutorial series, where we'll explore technologies and tools that transform content into intelligent content. I'm Marcelo Lewin, the founder of Intelligent Content Academy and a senior content solutions architect. In today's episode, I'm actually going to show you a really cool tool. It's Google's NotebookLM. It's a tool that helps you read, understand, and work with your documents using AI in a technique called Retrieval-Augmented Generation, or simply RAG. But before we get started, I do want to remind you to go subscribe at the YouTube channel. Click that bell icon to get notified when a new episode is out. And if you enjoyed this episode, hit that like button. If you didn't, send me an email, marcelo@intelligentcontent.academy, and tell me why. All right, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to go ahead and get into the screen here. And before we jump into the actual demo, which I will show you the app itself, what I do want to show you, though, is I want to show you or go over some of the basics, some of the fundamentals, so that way when we jump in, you have all the terminology and everything with you there. So the key thing here is, what is a Google NotebookLM? It's a free tool. And let me make sure I put this correctly here. It allows you to process and analyze your documents using AI, and like I mentioned, that technique called RAG, Retrieval-Augmented Generation. Essentially, it becomes an expert on your documents. Once it knows your documents, you can start extracting information from it, you can answer questions, you can generate summaries, you can create study guides. And a very cool feature they just released, I think it was a couple of days ago, is the ability to create a podcast with two people having a conversation about your documents. It's actually pretty cool and a little bit scary, actually, but it's insanely cool. Now, the key also is that it gives you citations. So that way, when you're chatting with the documents, it actually tells you exactly where it got the information from, which portion, which block of text in your document did it get that information from. And that's really important, right? Because you want to know that it's not, as they say, hallucinating. It's not making stuff up. So where can you get this? You can get it at notebooklm.google. So that's, you can, if you have a Google account, you should be able to sign up and get it for free. Right now it's free. As always, who knows if it's going to stay free later on, or if this tool will be merged into something else. You know how Google does its things. A couple of things I do want you to understand before we jump in is some of the entities. There are very basic entities, but once you know this, then you'll know what we're talking about. So obviously you have the notebook dashboard where you have a whole bunch of notebooks. So that's one entity. Notebooks is an entity. Notebooks have many notes, okay? So that's another entity. And then a notebook has sources. So those are your documents. So that's the key, right? All your sources you can then query using the AI chat model, which is Gemini's 1.5 Pro. So those are your main entities in the app, right? You have your sources that you upload and you can query. Then you can create a note based on how you interact with those sources in the chat. And you can create as many notebooks as you want. All right, so let me go through here and let me make sure we can see this properly. Yep, some of the workflow. Like I mentioned, you have many notebooks within NotebookLM. You can have many notebooks created, right? Notebooks based on whatever topics you want. Now, each notebook has many sources. And then you can query those sources via the chatbot. So you're just like ChatGPT or Claude or anything else, right? You can just query those sources. So you're not getting general information from the LLM. You're actually getting information back specific to your domain, to your sources that you uploaded. Now, Notebook also has many notes. And you can query those notes. Now, as you can see here, you can query notes and then you get the output of those notes or the output of those sources. Right now, you can only query your sources or your notes. You can't combine everything together. At least that's what I run into the issue, where if you have notes and sources clicked together and you query it, notes will overtake. And I'll show you that later, how that works. That may be a bug. I don't see that as a feature, to be honest with you. But anyway. And so how do you create notes? So there are 5 ways of creating notes. The first one is when you upload your sources. Oh yeah, I do want to mention the type of sources here that you can upload. You can upload basically 4 categories or types of sources. The ones that you can upload from your computer, they're PDFs, text, or markdown files. Then you can attach sources from Google Docs and Google Slides. I don't believe you can do Sheets yet. You can then scrape a website by putting the URL link. We're going to do that as well. And you can just cut and paste text into a field that they allow you to do that. Once you do that, for every document that you attach, it will automatically generate a source overview of that document, so a summary, and then I think it's 5 topics it'll create for that document, which then you can use to create further notes and things like that. I'll show you that in a minute. I just want you to get the fundamentals here before we jump in. Now let's go back to how do we create these notes? Well, the simplest way is you just say new note manually and you just create a note just like you do in any note kind of app. So you do that. That's one way. The other one is the output of sources when you're interacting with your documents and you ask it questions and it gives you back the answers. That's one way. The other one is when you interact with your notes and you ask questions about your notes. That's another way. And then the other way is you can combine notes here. As you can see, you can take 2 notes and create a new note, or 3 notes or 4 notes, as many as you want, and create a new note based on those. Excuse me while I get a little bit of water here, as my mouth is getting a little bit dry. But that's so you can create new notes based on other notes. And then the final way is you can open up a source document and you can read what it brought in, and then you can highlight anything you want and then interact with that or create a new note based off of that. So those are the 5 ways that you can do it. So I will give you access to this document, so don't worry about it. But this is sort of the big picture of how it works. Now, a couple of things before we jump in. I want to say that this is as of today. What I mean by that is, I don't know how this is going to be tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. A lot of stuff you're learning here today, it may be very different. You know how things change in AI and all this stuff changes on an hourly basis. So it may be old already, who knows? But just keep that in mind. Also, like I mentioned, if you select both notes and sources, notes will take precedence when you're interacting with it. I think that's a bug. I hope that's a bug because I don't see it as a feature. Each source that you upload can have up to 500,000 words, and you can have up to 50 sources. So after 50 documents you can create. Like I mentioned, it's free for now because it's in testing phase. It's using RAG, Retrieval-Augmented Generation, which is a way of taking extra content or document and adding it to your text prompt and then prompting the LLM. It's a little more complicated than that, but that's sort of the big picture. It's using currently Gemini 1.5 Pro. That just changed a couple of days ago because of that audio podcast that they're doing. I think before it was just using Gemini 1.5. And then they as in Google is stating that they will never use your data for training, anything you upload. So in theory, everything is private that you're uploading, but I wouldn't upload anything that has passwords or any of that kind of stuff. They even tell you that. Also, it's available in 35 languages. I'm using the English version, but you got 34 other languages there. And NotebookLM will only provide answers if they exist in your source document. So for example, if we have a bunch of source documents, let's say about the history of World War II, and then I say, hey, give me a recipe for cookies, it'll say, sorry, it's not available in the source document. So this isn't where you can ask any generic questions. This is only where you can interact with your document. So even though it's using Gemini 1.5 Pro, it's using it so it could interact through natural language with your documents, not with the general information on the internet. And also right now, chat history will not persist. So if I hit refresh, the entire history is gone. Okay, enough of that. Let's go ahead and jump in. All right, here we go. So want to make sure it looks good. Yeah, everything's looking great, and I think our bandwidth is looking good. So for now, we're looking good. I'm using a new service here, so I think it's looking good so far. All right. So here's the interface. Let's start with at the beginning when you get to notebooklm.google.com or .google and then you register and log in, it'll route you to this. You have your dashboard. In your dashboard, basically, you have all your notebooks. Here, I just created one that I was playing with. They also give you example notebooks that you can open up and read and check out. This one, Introduction to NotebookLM, is a good one because it actually will give you a lot of details about how it works, which most of them you're getting in this tutorial here anyway. All right, a little bit more water here for me. Okay, so once in here, you can delete a notebook, you can edit the title of the notebook. Very simple stuff. You've got here a dark or light mode, right? They have the help and a Discord. Sign up for the Discord. They have a Discord server that you can sign up, and there's a lot of good information there. Okay, and you can even see here, it's called experimental right now. It's tagged as experimental, so right now you're going to have issues with it, some hallucinations, some bugs, obviously, because it's experimental. So to create a new notebook, you just create new notebook, and then it takes you to the new notebook, and you can immediately will say, hey, do you want to upload sources? So I'm going to click on X. I'm actually going to go back to the dashboard, and I'm going to go ahead and delete this one for now, because I'm going to go into this filmmaking one, which I already set up, but we are going to create a new notebook. I just want to go real quick through the interface here. On the left, you have all your sources. So you can see that I uploaded some sources. This one, for example, is just some pasted text that I uploaded. Same with this one here. Actually, no, this one is a URL that it went into my website and actually scraped the homepage, and it pasted all the content in there. Then I also uploaded some documents from Google. So that's on the left. Now notice that every time I selected one, well, before we do that, you see these three dots right there? You can click on those and you can remove the source or rename the source. Very easy, because what's going to happen is if I say add source, and for example, let's say paste text, and we'll go ahead and say paste text, and we're just going to put this here. It's going to say pasted text, see? So then you can go ahead and rename the source to whatever you want it to call it. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that. Okay, the other thing I wanted to show you is that it will give you that summary. Do you remember here I showed you, let's go back to this document, that when you upload documents, it generates source, they call it a source overview. It's a summary, but they call it, that's what Google calls it, source overview, and then key topics. So if we go back here, you can see the source overview, the summary, and then some key topics that then you can interact with. So that's your left-hand side. So you have your sources, you can delete them, you can remove the sources, you can add more, you can rename them, you can check out what it imported, you have some key topics and summary. Moving on to the right, on the top is the name of the notebook. So if you want to rename it, you can also rename it here, just like you did in the dashboard. This we covered already. You can share this with other people and then work together, just like you do in Google Docs. So that's kind of cool, actually. So if you're working on some study guide or whatever together, you can share this notebook and both of you can work on it together. Here is where you have your notes, okay? And remember, there were 5 ways of creating notes. We're going to go into that in just a second. At the bottom is where you actually have your chat, where you interact, kind of like ChatGPT, right? You can see the chat, so that removes the notes. Anything that you've been interacting with, you can click on View Chat. You can close the chat, and it brings back all your notes. So if we want to create a note, we'll go ahead and click on Add Note. That's a manual note. The other way to create a note, if you recall, is by going into the source guide, selecting something, and you can see these popped up. You can summarize this, but I can say Add Note. And we're going to do all this in a new document because I'm going to show you a new document. Then the other way of creating notes, if you remember, was selecting notes and then saying combine a note. That's the third way, right? And then the fourth and fifth way was selecting notes, asking it a question, getting the output in the chat, and saving the notes. Same with your sources. Okay. Finally, here you have a note guide. And what this note guide is a summary. It gives you a summary of everything in your notebook. So you can see a summary of all your sources in your notebook, some suggested questions that they recommend, and then it gives you gives you shortcuts. These shortcuts here are like creating an FAQ, a study guide, table of contents. Basically, it's interacting with the chatbot. And then this is the audio. This is where you can actually interact, or not interact, but create a podcast of these documents here. And it'll have a conversation between the two people. We're going to do that afterwards. Okay, so what I want to do now is I'm going to go ahead and close this up. Let's go back here. Let's create a new notebook. And one thing that I'm doing right now is I'm learning a lot about graph databases and knowledge graphs, the Neo4j. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new notebook. We're going to call it Neo4j Graph DB Study Notebook. We're just going to create that. Now I have 4 PDFs that I downloaded randomly from their site, from the Neo4j site. So I'm going to go ahead and grab it, and I'm dropping them right here. Actually, nope, I shouldn't do that there. Let's go back here. I should have done this. I forgot. Sorry about that. So I'll grab them now and drop them into this here, into the sources. So now it took it and it's uploading the 4 sources. So you can see that it's going, and when it's done processing, then you'll get these what they are, if they're PDFs or whatever. Let's add another document. I'm going to go ahead and add a Google slide that I have, and it's this Introduction to Neo4j Hands-on Crash Course. So I've added that. Now, what I want to do also is I'm going to go ahead and add a website document, and let's open it up real quick. This one we're going to go ahead and add this document into it as well. So I'm going to say add, I'm going to say website link, I'm going to add this document, or it's the website location, which is this what is generative AI. So it's this page here. And then finally, so you can see that it got it there. And then finally, I'm going to cut and paste some text also from their site. I'm just going to cut and paste this. So I'm going to say Neo4j Bloom is a graph exploration, blah, 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 blah. So we'll go ahead and copy all of this. I just copied it. And let's go ahead and close this, close this. I'm going to say add. I'm going to say copy text, paste, insert. And this one I'm going to rename because it just says pasted text. Let's rename it. And we're going to rename it to, this is going to be Bloom. What is Bloom? What is Bloom, right? We'll rename it. Okay, so we have all of our documents here. Now, you can see that it's showing me here at the bottom how many documents or sources are we working with. So let's start asking it a question. So let's go and say, what is Neo4j used for? And it's going to go and research all of these documents because I have them all selected. So for example, let's say I don't want it to go and research what is generative AI document. You can deselect them. You can, whatever you have selected is what it's going to go and do the research on. So let's go ahead and leave everything on. We'll click on next. Now, it does take a little bit of time sometimes. So, and this is a demo, so that means it's going to take longer than normal because it's a demo and Murphy's Law for demos. So while it's doing that, I'm going to take another sip of water here. Okay, so here we have the chat. I'm going to go ahead, I can close the chat, okay? I don't have any notes yet. Let's view the chat again. Now remember, if I hit refresh, because it won't persist the chat, this will be gone. Just keep that in mind, at least for now. Maybe they'll update it later. But here it's telling me some use cases for Neo4j. But what's wonderful about this, it's showing me citations. Where did it get it from? So if I click on the citation, like I click on 2, it got it from the Definitive Guide Graph Databases for IDFS Developer PDF right there. If I click on 16, it got it from an Introduction to Neo4j slides. So this is really nice. Now, let's say I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. Let's save this note. I'm going to save the note, and my note is saved. So remember, we queried the documents, and we got a note. That was one way. The other way is I'm going to create a manual note. Remember, that's number 2, and I'm just going to call this Neo4j is a knowledge graph database. I'm just going to say that for now. Just a simple note. So that's number 2 of creating a note. The third way was let's combine notes by combining a note, and I just combined this note. That's number 3. Okay, the fourth way of interacting is I'm going to deselect everything. I'm just going to select this one, and I'm going to say create a blog article. So right now, all it's doing, it's looking at that particular node, and it will create a blog article based on that node. So let's see what it comes up with. And of course, you want to do the prompt. You want to be more specific, how many paragraphs. You want to get detailed, right? I'm just doing this kind of quickly here. But here you go, Neo4j use cases, why use a graph database, and it created this. You can interact with it and make it better, remove paragraphs, just like a typical AI chat program, right? But we're not going to do that right now. So I'm going to say, oh yeah, this is really cool. I love this. I'm going to go ahead and save this note. So now it's saved it, and you saved note, but I'm going to call this blog article. Okay. So now this is, now watch, it has 10 citations here. So it's showing me where did it get it from. And it's showing me all the stuff where it actually found this information from. So you can see right here, it's got different citations, right? And they give you the citations right there as well. So that's kind of neat. Now, what I would have loved is for it to let me click on the citations here. It only allows me to do it here. I don't know why. But yeah, that's what it's doing. Okay, so we just created a node based on another node, right? On this one. Yep. Okay. So finally, let's go ahead and create a node based on all these documents. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say create an outline. So let's create an outline. And these are just suggestion links at the bottom. You can just basically say whatever you want. So now it's created an outline based on all of these documents. So you can see here an outline on Neo4j use cases, and it's got a whole bunch of stuff. Okay, now remember we have a node guide here. Now what happens is, and I've noticed this, and this is because it's experimental, it doesn't have the summary. But if I hit refresh, now when I hit refresh, my entire chat session will be gone. So let's hit refresh. If I go to view chat, it's gone. But now I think, yeah, there you go. So obviously there's a bug there, an experimental, and hopefully they'll fix that. Okay, but at this point I can click on generate, and what it's going to do now, it's going to look at all of these documents here and generate a conversation about Neo4j and all this. So I'm going to go ahead and click on generate. This will take a little bit of time to do. I don't know how long it's going to take. But I'm going to go ahead and let's see, because we can see this may take a few minutes. No need to stick around. So we don't have to stick around here. They do give you some warnings here about that it may include hallucination. It may not be perfect, so on and so forth. I'm going to go ahead and hide this. And I'm going to go into, let's go back. Let's go to filmmaking for a minute. We'll go to About Marcelo. I'm going to go ahead and I'm doing this on purpose because it'll go faster this. So I'm going to create a new notebook. I'm just going to say copy, paste. Okay. And I'm going to rename this to about Marcelo. Okay. Obviously, it's giving me some summary about me here. I'm going to click on generate. This should go a little bit faster, and then it's kind of it'll stroke my ego because they're talking about me. I'm like, hey, that's cool. They're saying some good stuff about me. Let's load it. Okay. So remember, I put this about Marcelo document that's basically about stuff about me, right? My background and stuff like that. Let's listen in just for a minute. We're not going to play the full 4 minutes.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We're diving deep today, folks, into the world of content technology.
That's right. And, it's a space that at first glance seems...
kind of a mouthful.
Yeah, maybe even a little dry, right?
Definitely not the sexiest thing in the world.
No. But it really is fascinating stuff, especially when you're in the startup world, of information out there and making it usable, understandable. It keeps coming. And how do you even keep up with it all?
Seriously, my brain is fried. So for those of us who aren't quite as tech savvy, what exactly is content technology? What does that even mean?
Well, at its core, it's about making sense of all that information. It's about organizing it.
Right.
But I think that's what makes this so interesting, because once you actually start digging in, you see this through line in everything Marcelo's done.
So it's not just some random career path. You're saying there's a method to the madness.
It's pretty crazy how that conversation happens between the both of them, so casual, and it feels like two real people speaking. I covered everything I wanted to cover. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and click that bell icon to get notified when a new episode is out. And if you enjoyed this episode, remember to hit the like button. If you didn't, remember to send me an email, marcelo@intelligentcontent.academy, and tell me why. Finally, go to the site, check out all the stuff that I have there, intelligentcontent.academy. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you so much for attending, and we'll see you on the next episode. Cheers, everybody.